Time to pick the apples. I'm excited to get a good apple harvest this year. Got some really nice ones and some not so nice ones, but the tree had to be picked clean because there were those nasty Japanese beetles on the tree. These nasty buggers will send out a pheromone to call all their friends in if you're not careful. So what I have to do now is I will rinse all these apples. I will cut out any bad spots. But the best thing about when you do steam juicing, you don't have to take out the core if you don't want to. Nope. You don't have to take out the skins. It gets all the juice out for you, and it is the simplest, fastest way for me to make juice. I love making homemade apple juice with this. I'm just going to start out here by rinsing off my apples really well, and I'm going to start cutting them open. You can see that the insides, they're really nice, so I'll start throwing them into my steamer basket, chopping away, looking for any bad spots or anything like that. Of course, we're going to have to do a quality assurance taste test. These are Honeycrisp apples. They are so good. A little bad spot, so they're not as good for saving. I can't put these in the fridge and save them for long-term storage, but I can certainly use them now. Any of the bad bits go in this bucket for the chickens. Fill this steamer basket to the top. So I've got both of these going with some apples in them. And the biggest thing that you got to watch for is make sure that you fill the bottoms completely full with water. You can put a small amount of vinegar if you want in there. It'll actually kind of help bring the juices out, kind of like broth. But what happens is the steam will build. It'll go all the way up to the top. And then you've got your layer here that has your veg in it. And then the fruit juice will come out this tube. I'll set up a chair with a pot on each end to collect all the juice. Some people take it out a jar at a time. To me, that is unsafe because the jars get really hot. Plus, I want that strong juice to mix with the less, the weaker juice towards the end. And then I heat it all up and can it. So once the juice starts coming up your tube, you know it is time to drain. You'll have your pot, it'll drain out. And you can do this a couple times. This has probably been going maybe an hour. Ooh, that gets hot. You gotta make sure you hold it right. Next, I'm gonna take this pot off. I've got a lid on here. I'm gonna take this pot off. I'm gonna move over here so I can put some water in the base. I'm gonna move that over here. There's still lots of water, but I don't want to run out. So I'm gonna add some more in there. I'll put this back on and I'll let it steam a little longer to see if there's any more juice left in those apples. You guys, so I'm so excited. I got online and I looked, and then I remembered I actually have a paper copy of the USDA home guide to home preserving. And did you know that you actually can a few things in the half-gallon jars? Yeah. You can water bath juice in a half-gallon jar. I was actually getting on there to look to see if I needed to add sugar, and I didn't think that it was required, and it's not. And I don't want to add sugar to my apple juice today because I want the possibility of maybe making jelly with it later or doing something else. So I'm gonna go back to my quarts, which I already have washed and hot, and so I'll bring you in and show you how I'm gonna process this. Okay, we have hot juice, hot to warm jars, and then I've got over here the steam canners warming up. Put the juice in the jars. Now, if you really want a super tasty juice, I like to get several. I mean, at least 3, but 5 or maybe even more varieties of apples is best. But I only have the 1 apple tree, and the apples were too small to do much of anything, and you saw they have blemishes. So I decided that apple juice was what I wanted to do with this. I'm excited about having apple juice on my shelf, but I'm also excited about having it to do other things with, like soaking that freeze-dried zucchini and making a pie. How fantastic would that be? Now, it is very natural for there to be a little bit of foam come to the top. That's okay, that happens, it's fine. I need a 1/4 of an inch headspace, and so it looks like I actually have about 3/4 of an inch. So I need to add some more in here. That is not much for headspace. That's just one. You look on here, that's just one of those little notches. That looks right to me now. So next I have a rag with some vinegar on it. And I just want to wipe the top off. Place on my lid. My ring fingertip tight. Whew, warm. And then we'll move over here. And I will put this in my steam canner. And I'll keep working on this till I have them all done. We ended up with 6 quarts, so they will all fit in my canner. And I moved it here to the front. I just like this burner a little bit better. I'm gonna turn it up to a medium high, and I need to wait until it gets in the zone for my area, and then I'm going to let it steam process for 10 minutes. See that? We've got more projects to do. Taking our steam juicers, we have got our juice in our jar. Now I need to figure out how to deal with all this mush, this soft apple. So, did you know that even after you steam juice, there is still flavor and nutrients in this? As much as my chickens would appreciate me giving it to them as is, I actually want to work on making some apple butter. Now, typically, I would think applesauce, but because we did take some of the sugars out, I want to put some sugar back in. And my applesauces I like to make and leave them without the sugar so that I can substitute them in recipes for oil. So I think I want to add the sugar to this and turn it into apple butter. And I love this little gadget. It is probably considered an antique. It will just make the perfect sauce. What I do is I put the mush in here and I go around and around and around. And I let it sit in this tripod, and as I do that, the applesauce comes out, I spin it around, it knocks it off, and then it goes into the bottom of the bowl. And this really just is unsweetened applesauce. You could easily put this in the freezer, you could can it as is, you could turn it into fruit leather in the dehydrator. The possibilities are endless. This fall is getting so close. I can kind of feel it. I almost smell it in the mornings. And I'm kind of in the mood for some apple butter. Keep adding some apples. Once I get to the point where it's hard to stir it around, then I can dump the seeds and skins into the bucket. This is a great project for kids. I'm going to grab a spoon, and I'm going to take a little of this applesauce and taste it just so you can see whether or not we think it really has flavor. Actually, it is still very, very sweet. A little tart. It tastes just like applesauce that had not been juiced. This is up. I'm gonna tilt that just a little bit. I'm gonna let that set for like 5 minutes. Never put your lid on a hot surface. These are cool. And I like to put my jars under this ledge, away from the vent. Back on. I'm gonna put it back on this back burner so that I have a place for us to start working on the apple butter when we get to that point. There's a very small amount of juice in our middle tray here. Just gonna add that right in with our applesauce. I have one of my steam canners done. So this would be like one batch, right? So what I'll do next is I'll take all this applesauce. I'm gonna dump it in my stock pot. And then we will turn it into the most delicious apple butter. Look at all this product that would have normally been thrown away. So I'm going to add the appropriate amount of sugar and seasonings now. We have cinnamon and clove, sugar, and brown sugar. And now I just need to heat this up. Woo! It's already pretty warm. While I measured that out, I went ahead and started warming my pureed apples. Basically now, I just need to let the sugar melt and the seasonings do their thing. It does tell you to test that when it's done, that there are two things you can do. You can take a spoon and fill it up, pull it away from the steam, and let it sit on the counter for 2 minutes. If there is still a mound on the spoon, it's ready to go. Or you can put a dab on a plate, let it set and cool, and if the water does not separate, that's another indication that it's ready to go. I don't think it's going to take long. I have turned my steam canner on, the back canner, to start warming that water up. I have a little bit of vinegar in there just to try to keep my jars a little bit cleaner. And wow, this is starting to really smell like fall. Oh, guys, this smells so good. Ooh, okay, so it is nice and thick, ready to go. So I'm gonna start ladling it into my jars. Again, it says 1/4 of an inch headspace. Now, typically, I would use 1/2 pint size, but today I just had the urge to go ahead and do a full pint. Well, yep, and I want to wipe the rim with vinegar. Quick little debubble. And now we go into the steam canner. Okay, so we have 8 jars in here, and we're gonna turn that heat up and process these for 10 minutes. Seven in the second batch. I'd say it's been a good day. We have 6 quarts of apple juice, 15 pints of apple butter, and we still got quite a few apples I can make some more delicious things with. I'm gonna cut, first I'll rinse them, And then I'm gonna put some of this lemon juice inside this water so I can hopefully freeze dry. And then any extra will go in here to steam juice. As you can probably imagine, this project started a few days after our original apple day. What I did here is I just started slicing up the apples. Any of the good core bits that still had a lot of apple piece on them are just going to go in the steamer, and we're going to go ahead and add all that in there, and then I'll fill the rest up with apples so that we can go ahead and get our juice, and I'll probably end up making some apple butter with it too. I'm just taking the good pieces of the apple and I'm putting them in that lemon water so that we can use them for the freeze dryer. Unfortunately, I lost pretty much all of that footage, but what I did is I just divided it out on the trays, weighed it out so that I didn't hit my max in the freeze dryer, let it go, and here is the end product. And then the next time I did go ahead and use the half pints for the apple butter. We are a good 2 weeks into this project, and I still have apples. I have 1 sink load left. I've got everything all set up, and I've got some jars in the dishwasher, and I think I'm gonna finish off my apples by making some pie filling. Okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna work these apples just like we have been, okay? I'm gonna go through these apples, any good bits, I'm gonna stick in my lemon water just like we did for the freeze dryer. Now these apples do have the rust spots on them. They're perfectly safe. You can see the insides are perfectly fine. Cut out that core. Stick it inside my steamer. I'm going to try to have about a 1/2 inch slice. And into the lemon water it goes. Another good thing that you can do is put citric acid in water, and that works just fine. But I happen to have lemon juice today. Sometimes if you make a little V in there, that's what you have to do to get that core completely out of there. Now it's time to measure out the apples. Exactly enough for a full batch of 7 quarts. Okay, so I've got 7 quarts of apples. I've got, I'm supposed to have around 1 gallon of water boiling. I think I might actually have slightly over that, but it's okay. I need to bring it to a boil, and then we're going to blanch these for 1 minute. But while I'm waiting, I don't want them to turn, so I'm going to put some fruit fresh on. This stuff will just kind of help keep, it says it prevents browning and preserves flavor. So, you know, it's been a busy day. I haven't been able to get to these as quickly as I wanted, so I'm going to do every step I can to try to keep them from browning. Earlier, I took the peels and the cores, and I made fresh juice. And I need 5 cups, so I have that measured out. And I had about 3 cups extra. This is just an old spaghetti jar, and I'm just gonna put this in the fridge so that we can have for breakfast. Okay, we have a nice boil going here, and I just need to take part of the apples, around 6 cups, and I'm going to put them in. Once it comes back to a boil, we'll boil for 1 minute, and then we'll just do the next batch until they're all done. And I've got this pot here with a strainer in it so that we can make sure we drain off all the water. And then we want to keep the apples warm while we're waiting to do the next step. I tell you what, you get a facial doing all this stuff. Apple juice already measured out, sugar, water. In the bowl here I have clear gel, which is this stuff. It is a special cornstarch that is made for canning in water bath canning. I also have cinnamon, and optional is nutmeg. My big whisk. I need to heat this up. It's going to thicken. And while I'm working on getting this to thicken, I went ahead and I've got water in my steam canner, and I put my clean jars in here, and we're just gonna let the jars and the steamer warm up while our sauce thickens. We have started to thicken. Now I just need to wait for it to kind of bubble. We're starting to bubble, so now I'm going to add in my lemon juice. It calls for 3/4 cup unless you have a sweeter apple, which I do. So they suggest adding a 1/4 cup more. So I added a full cup of lemon juice. And now we need to let this cook for 1 minute. Stirring constantly. When my timer goes off, I'm going to switch things around. Look at that. Woo! That'll get you. It is beautiful. Shut that off for a second. Move this off the heat. Move this over to the heat. Turn it to a medium. Now I get out the big old spatula. My apples are warm. It goes right on in there. You notice that I'm doing this away from my face. And now I just need to, I don't want to, go crazy with it. I just want to kind of fold this in. Because if I stir too crazy, then it's going to beat up those apples. And I'm going to fill these jars. I'm going to give a generous 1-inch headspace. I'm going to do this because sometimes pie filling can expand, and I really don't want a huge siphoning mess. I'm using a wide mouth jar because I just find that they are easier to clean out all the goodies. I am loving my new scoop. I won this from Kettle Kitchen off of the, I believe it was the Jam It Up June. So I'll just keep filling these. Okay, I need to debubble. Sometimes when you debubble, your headspace changes. So I am perfect right here. I do not want to go above that line. Sure, I definitely wipe down these rims very good with the vinegar because there is a lot of sugar in there and that'll be sticky. As always, fingertip tight. And into the canner. Put it in the right direction here. I need to process this for 30 minutes. There was about a jelly jars left. I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna put it in the fridge, and we're gonna use it for either on top of yogurt, maybe in some oatmeal, oh, on top of ice cream. Ooh. Spoiler, I tasted it. It's amazing. You're gonna wanna make this. Things are looking good. I don't think we had any siphoning.